12 most bizarre archaeological discoveries of all time that even top scientists can't explain. Hello, welcome back to the latest video on the Ancient History channel. My friend, have you ever heard of archaeological discoveries so astonishing that they leave the entire world in shock? Discoveries that even scientists have no explanation for? Throughout history, humanity has not only created monumental achievements, but has also hidden countless strange mysteries that even the brightest minds have yet to unravel. From mass graves filled with haunting human remains, to mummies with bizarre appearances, to artifacts carrying mysterious powers beyond imagination, each discovery forces us to ask, do we really understand our own past? In today's video, we'll embark on a journey through the 12 most terrifying archaeological discoveries of all time. These stories are not only spine-chilling, but they also reveal mysteries that modern science still cannot decode. Every artifact, every site tells its own story, where the past meets the present and where things that once seemed impossible become undeniable evidence. Get ready, because what you're about to see will leave you astonished, unsettled, and perhaps even change the way you view the history you thought you knew. Now, let's dive into our first discovery. The mummy with the square mask of a wealthy man from ancient Egypt. Did you know that among the thousands of artifacts resting quietly inside the Louvre Museum in Paris, there is one figure that makes anyone who walks by stop and look again? It's a strange mummy whose face is completely covered with layers of linen arranged in perfectly concentric squares, as if someone deliberately sealed the identity of this mysterious man forever. Just one glance, and people immediately wonder, who was this man to be wrapped in such an unusual way? What makes this mummy truly special is its unique wrapping style. The linen strips are woven and layered meticulously, forming evenly spaced square patterns across the face, while the rest of the body beneath is remarkably well preserved under the linen. When the museum performed an X-ray scan, they discovered that the body belonged to an adult man who lived during the Ptolemaic period, around 305 to 300 BCE. Hearing that alone tells us he must have belonged to a wealthy class, someone who could afford a full mummification to prepare for the most dignified journey into the afterlife. Although his real name remains unknown, researchers believe this man may have been Pacheri or Nenu. The most striking feature is the square-shaped cartonnage mask covering the face, made from a material used for funerary masks from as early as 2181 BCE to as late as 400 CE. This cartonnage was created similarly to papier-mâché, using layers of papyrus or linen mixed with plaster and then painted. The square mask, currently displayed beside the mummy, is decorated with symbols of rebirth, reflecting the Egyptian belief that the soul would continue to live in the afterlife. It doesn't end there. The mummy's collar is carved with images of the goddesses Nephthys and Isis, who were believed to protect the dead. The necklace is also elaborate, featuring beads with falcon head designs, symbols of the god Horus. From the chest down to the knees lies a ceremonial apron representing social status. The longer it was, the higher the person's rank. Looking closer, you can see the mummy lying on a bed surrounded by depictions of Nephthys, Isis, and the four sons of Horus, Imsiti, Duamutef, Hapi, and Kebasenuef. Corresponding to them are 4 jars that once held the liver, stomach, lungs, and intestines of the deceased, organs preserved during the mummification ritual except for the heart and brain. The heart was removed for safekeeping because Egyptians believed it housed the soul, while the brain was discarded, as they thought it contained only useless fluids. On the mummy's legs are images of Anubis and Anpu, the gods responsible for embalming and judging souls. According to Egyptian belief, Anubis would weigh the heart of the deceased against the feather of Ma'at to determine whether the soul was light enough to enter the realm of the dead. Herodotus, the Greek historian who lived around 450 BCE, once described the Egyptian mummification process in detail. They removed the brain through the nose, extracted the organs that would decay quickly, cleansed the body with resin and palm oil, then wrapped it in multiple layers of linen soaked in fragrant resin. While wrapping the body, priests would place protective amulets between the layers to safeguard the deceased on their journey to the afterlife. Because of this, it's very likely that the mummy of Pacheri or Nenu underwent the exact same process. Judging from the elaborate decorations, funerary items, and intricate wrapping, it's clear that this mysterious man must have been among the wealthiest of his time. Not everyone in ancient Egypt was treated with such honor. Most ordinary people were simply buried in the desert with only a few small offerings. Just imagine, behind those perfectly squared linen layers lies the entire life of a man who once held power and carried a profound belief in eternity. So if you ever find yourself standing before this mummy, what would you think? What made him deserving of such exceptional treatment? Feel free to share your thoughts below. Who knows, maybe you'll see a story no one else has noticed. And wouldn't that be something extraordinary? The alien-like mummy that appeared in Russia. If you think stories about strange creatures or extraterrestrials only exist in movies, then perhaps you've never heard about the mysterious incident that took place in the summer of 1996 in the village of Kaolinovy, near the city of Kishtim in Russia's Ural region. What happened there shocked the entire area, and to this day, no one has been able to fully explain it. Everything began when the villagers noticed Tamara Prosvarina, a retired woman living alone, often walking around carrying something tightly wrapped in a small blanket. She held it like a real infant, whispering to it as if it were alive. At first, everyone assumed she was simply confused. Her only son, Alexei, was already an adult, so what was this thing she kept cradling everywhere she went? One neighbor recalled, "She said it was her child, but no one ever got to see its face." People quietly assumed she was carrying a toy, a piece of wood, or just an object she clung to for comfort in her old age. But the truth, when it finally came out, sent chills through the entire village. The thing Prosvarina held was not a toy. It was a living creature. This creature stood only about 8 to 10 inches tall, had brown skin, no hair, bulging eyes, and a tiny mouth that made high-pitched sounds sharp enough to make anyone's skin crawl. One of her friends later said its body resembled that of a newborn baby, and Prosvarina even fed it cheese and condensed milk. Its mouth was red, as if wounded, and it always looked weak and sorrowful. Word of the creature spread quickly, and soon the entire Kishtim region was buzzing with rumors. Some believed it was an extraterrestrial that had fallen to Earth. Others had a darker theory. Perhaps it was a product of radiation-induced mutation. After all, Prosvarina lived in an area affected by the 1957 Kishtim nuclear disaster, a massive plutonium explosion at a nearby nuclear facility. Many surrounding regions were heavily contaminated, and the effects continued to haunt residents for decades. But those were only speculations. No one had real answers. Not long after the creature appeared, Prosvarina was admitted to a psychiatric hospital. When she returned home, the being she had cared for as her child was already dead. One of her friends, wanting to preserve the strange body, washed it with strong alcohol and dried it, making it look like a tiny mummy. Eventually, the creature's remains were handed over to the police for investigation. However, when medical experts examined the body, they were just as confused as everyone else. A pathologist claimed it was not human, but another doctor insisted it might have been a severely deformed infant. No consensus was ever reached. As for Prosvarina, the only person who had truly lived with the creature, she died in a car accident in 1999, taking many secrets with her to the grave. Other witnesses gradually passed away as well, leaving the story lingering like a ghostly legend in the memories of the locals. The case has even been compared to the humanoid body found in Chile's Atacama Desert in 2003. It wasn't until 2018 that Stanford researchers confirmed the Atacama specimen was actually a human child with a rare genetic mutation. This only raised more questions. Could the Kishtim creature have been a similar mutation? Or was it truly from somewhere beyond Earth? So what exactly was this being? A severely deformed infant? A product of radiation? Or the first real evidence of extraterrestrial life? What do you think about this mystery? Do you believe it could have been an alien? As for me, I still wouldn't dare make a definitive conclusion, because even now I'm just as baffled as ever. The 2,500-year-old virgin mummy, whose curse terrified all of Siberia. Amid the desolate mountains of the Altai Range in Siberia, where icy winds sweep endlessly across frozen slopes and the ground remains locked in permafrost year-round, there lies a story that chills anyone who hears it. In 1993, under the leadership of Novosibirsk archaeologist Natalia Polosmak, an expedition uncovered something they never expected: the remarkably preserved mummy of a young virgin woman, untouched after 2,500 years beneath the eternal ice. From that moment on, she became known with deep reverence as the Altai Princess. What astonished archaeologists wasn't just her near-perfect state of preservation, but also the intricate tattoos carved into her skin. These elaborate patterns revealed her social status, spiritual beliefs, and stories tied to the ancient tribe that once inhabited this frigid land. Each design was like a signature, messages from a culture long forgotten beneath millennia of snow and ice. Through extensive scientific analysis, experts discovered that the Altai princess had suffered from several severe illnesses, but it was cancer that ultimately caused her death, along with osteomyelitis, serious inflammation of the bone marrow caused by a long-term infection. When her illness worsened, she may have used opium to relieve unbearable pain. These revelations gradually painted a tragic portrait. She had chosen to live as a virgin, and upon her death, she was buried in an ice tomb with treasured belongings, a clear mark of her noble status within her tribe. But what truly turned the story frightening were the events that followed after her body was removed from the earth. Locals believe the Altai princess was not merely a historical figure. She was a sacred guardian, a protector of the boundary between the living and the dead. Her presence within the stone burial chamber for thousands of years was seen as a spiritual seal, maintaining natural and cosmic balance. According to their belief, the moment the tomb was opened, the gateway between the two worlds was cracked open, and in the decades that followed, the Altai region was struck by a series of earthquakes, floods, and natural disasters, events that convinced many residents that the curse of the Altai princess had descended upon them for disturbing her eternal rest. Even today, elders in Altai still say that these harsh upheavals were no coincidence. Many regard the removal of the mummy as a violation of sacred boundaries. According to their belief, only by returning the princess to her rightful place in the frozen earth can the gateway of spirits be sealed once more and peace restored to their land. Because of this, countless locals have called for the princess to be returned to the spot where she had lain undisturbed for 25 centuries, hoping to calm the forces of nature and bring harmony back to their sacred mountains. So what do you think? Is all of this just coincidence, or is there something beyond human understanding at play? Could a 2,500-year-old mummy, a virgin woman whose life was marked by tragedy, truly possess the supernatural power the Altai people believe she holds? As for me, I feel this story still exists on the boundary between science and belief, between human curiosity and mysteries time has yet to solve. And perhaps it is that very uncertainty that makes the Altai princess one of the most enigmatic mummies on Earth. The Giant Skull Tower, revealing the Aztecs' terrifying rituals that shocked the world. When it comes to the most chilling mysteries of ancient Central America, the story of the Aztec Skull Tower is impossible to overlook. An eerie, overwhelming structure that sends shivers down the spine of anyone who hears about it. Right in the heart of modern-day Mexico City, near the ruins of the ancient Templo Mayor, archaeologists from Mexico's National Institute of Anthropology and History made a shocking discovery. More than 650 skulls fused together into a massive structure. This number is far more than a simple archaeological statistic. It is a gateway into the bloody, ritual-filled past of the once powerful Aztec Empire. You might wonder, where did those 650 skulls come from? And why were they built into an entire structure? The answer lies in the Huitzilopochtli, a gigantic skull rack that terrified the Spanish conquistadors when they first arrived in Tenochtitlan in the 16th century. They recorded seeing human heads lined up on display, exposed to sun and wind, serving as a chilling reminder of the Aztecs' extreme devotion and formidable power. According to historical records, the skulls belonged mostly to warriors captured before the Spanish conquest. These individuals were sacrificed to honor Huitzilopochtli, the god of the sun, war, and sacrifice. The Skull Tower, therefore, was not only a religious monument, but also a statement of the Aztec Empire's dominance over the lands it ruled. But the most startling discovery came from excavations conducted from 2015 to the present. Archaeologists realized the skulls were not uniform in age or gender. Among the remains were not only adult men, but also women and children. This forced researchers to rethink everything. Could it be that Aztec sacrifices weren't tied solely to warfare? Could their spiritual rituals have been far broader and far more complex than we ever imagined? The uncovered section of the Skull Tower is circular, measuring about 20 feet in diameter, and it sits directly within the ceremonial area dedicated to Huitzilopochtli. So far, 676 skulls have been counted in this latest excavation, and the figure may continue to rise as deeper layers are explored. Just imagine it, a sacred religious site encircling a ring of human skulls. It wasn't merely architecture, it was a terrifying declaration of Aztec faith, identity, and cultural power. The Aztecs, an umbrella term for several groups living in central Mexico, were one of the most powerful civilizations in Central America from the 14th to 16th century. They were renowned for their impressive architecture, their military triumphs, and also the haunting sacrificial rituals that continue to unnerve the world today. Brutal or not, the remains of their culture are invaluable treasures that help us understand humanity's past. So what do you think the true purpose of this skull tower was? A religious symbol? A warning to enemies? Or perhaps something even deeper and more mysterious? Take a guess, because the more we uncover, the more we realize that the Aztec Empire was anything but simple. The 3-ton coffin submerged in a sea of water in China. When it comes to Chinese archaeology, most people immediately think of magnificent tombs filled with countless treasures, from the mysterious Sanxing Dui to the famous mausoleum of the Marquis of Dai. Yet, among all these remarkable discoveries, there is one tomb that left researchers completely stunned due to its unprecedented peculiarity: a massive water tomb buried deep beneath the ground in Suizhou, Hubei. And the most extraordinary feature? Inside this tomb lies the heaviest coffin in the history of Chinese archaeology. The story begins in February 1978, when the Wuhan Air Force detonated explosives to expand a radar repair facility. Amid the dust and smoke, the sandstone on the hillside unexpectedly cracked open, revealing an area of earth with unusual coloring. This soil did not look natural, and signs of prior excavation were evident. Experts immediately recognized that this could be the top layer of an ancient, large-scale tomb constructed thousands of years ago. As predicted, a quick survey revealed the tomb spanned 2,370 square feet, with a depth of 43 feet. The coffin chamber alone measured 2,050 square feet, 6 times larger than the famous burial chamber of Lady Sin in the Marquis of Dai's tomb. Yet the tomb had no entrance, forcing archaeologists to use heavy cranes to move 47 massive stone slabs. Beneath these stones lay 8 feet of compacted soil, then a layer of green clay 4 to 12 inches thick for waterproofing, and finally 132,000 pounds of charcoal, an elaborate ancient anti-flooding system. However, when the wooden planks were lifted, the scene stunned everyone. The entire tomb was submerged in water. Though meticulously waterproofed, why had it sunk into a vast pool of water? The answer? An ancient earthquake or flood had ruptured the underground water table, submerging everything beneath it. Excavating the tomb required pumps working for hours to remove both water and mud. Only after the water receded did the true shape of the tomb emerge. Experts discovered the tomb was divided into 4 rectangular chambers, and in the eastern chamber lay the main coffin, resting silently as if waiting to be awakened after more than 2,400 years. This coffin astounded the world. It was made of a single cast bronze piece, 10.5 feet long, 6.9 feet wide, 7.2 feet high, and weighed a staggering 3.29 tons. The intricate embossed patterns on the coffin were almost unbelievable. Even more remarkably, the bronze coffin had a door, suggesting that the ancient builders believed the spirit could enter and leave its final resting place. Tests confirmed the remains inside were a male, approximately 5 feet 4 inches tall. Combined with inscriptions on the coffin, archaeologists identified this as the tomb of Marquis Zheng Hao Yi, ruler of the state of Zheng, a vassal state during the Warring States period, who lived around 475 to 433 BCE. The mysteries did not end there. As the water receded, 23 additional coffins unexpectedly floated inside the tomb. Each contained the remains of young women aged 13 to 25, palace musicians forced to follow the king in ritual burial. This cruel practice continued for centuries and was only abolished during the reign of Emperor Yingzong of the Ming dynasty, explaining its presence in the Marquis of Zheng's tomb. But that was not all. Archaeologists also uncovered more than 15,000 artifacts, including musical instruments, lacquered wooden objects, gold and jade, weapons, chariots, and over 6,200 bronze items. Among them, a set of 65 bronze bells stood out as the most magnificent musical instruments of the Warring States period. The largest bell measured 5 feet tall, weighing 449 pounds, while the smallest stood 8 inches tall, weighing 5.3 pounds. The total weight of the set reached 9,920 pounds, nearly 5 tons. A tomb submerged in water, a 3-ton bronze coffin, dozens of women sacrificed, and tens of thousands of treasures. All of these paint a vivid and tragic picture, revealing a dark and grandiose corner of ancient Chinese history. As you can see, it is both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Mysterious creature mummy, found in Russian diamond mine. In the icy lands of Yakutia, Russia, where diamond mines lie deep beneath ancient geological layers, one might think there is little left to surprise humanity. Yet, at the Udashny diamond mine, one of the largest in the world, miners accidentally unearthed something that left the scientific community stunned. A mummy of a mysterious creature lying undisturbed in sand for millions of years, unlike anything recorded in biological literature. When first discovered, everyone was shocked by the creature's strange appearance. Its body resembled that of a dinosaur, yet it bore certain traits of a carnivorous mammal. Its form seemed both familiar and alien, as if it had stepped out of the distant Mesozoic era. This ambiguity baffled experts because the creature did not match any known animal species from the region. Some miners even boldly suggested it might be the remains of a previously unknown dinosaur species. Speculation quickly followed. Some experts proposed it could belong to the wolf family, a carnivorous mammal common in the area. Yet even they soon dismissed the idea, as no species with such a bizarre hybrid appearance had ever been documented in Yakutia. This only deepened the mystery, heightening curiosity about the creature's true identity, origin, and why it had been buried so deeply beneath the diamond mine's sand. Adding to the shock was the estimated age. The creature could date back to the Mesozoic era, which spanned 66 to 252 million years ago. This means it may have lived alongside the dinosaurs that once ruled the Earth. If true, this discovery opens a window into the most ancient periods of natural history, where secrets long erased by time suddenly resurface before human eyes. Currently, the mummy is being prepared for transport from Udashny to Yakutsk, the regional capital, for detailed analysis. Scientists there will examine its skeletal structure, measure each body part, and conduct DNA sequencing to determine its precise origin. Is it an extinct species from tens of millions of years ago, or an unknown evolutionary branch of life? As of now, no one can answer that question with certainty. Interestingly, the Udashny mine has long been associated with strange stories throughout its history. Discovered in 1955, it supplied massive amounts of diamonds to Russia, but beneath its layers lie ancient geological strata rich with traces of the past. Every few meters dug feels like peeling back layers of history buried by time. Perhaps this is why the discovery of such an out-of-the-book creature has sparked even greater curiosity. How many more secrets lie beneath the frozen ground of Yakutia? Will science one day piece together the full story of Earth's evolution using tiny traces like this mummy? It's impossible to say for sure, but it seems entirely possible. 2 mysterious mummies discovered near King Tutankhamun's tomb. The Valley of the Kings, a name that alone makes anyone interested in ancient Egypt marvel. This is the resting place of illustrious pharaohs, where grand tombs hold countless priceless artifacts and the secrets of a magnificent civilization. Among them, none is more famous than King Tutankhamun, whose nearly perfectly preserved body has become a symbol of the pharaoh's wealth and power. Recently, however, an unexpected discovery sent shockwaves through the archaeological community. 2 new mummies were found right next to Tutankhamun's tomb. What stunned experts was that neither of these individuals had been buried in royal tombs, as would normally be expected. Who were they? Why were they buried here, so close to one of Egypt's most famous kings? Initial investigations by researchers suggest that they were most likely not pharaohs. Instead, they may have been high-ranking officials or individuals who played important roles in the royal court, but who lacked the status to warrant a royal tomb. However, the absence of records about their original burial sites has made deciphering their story more challenging than ever. Of course, the story doesn't end there. Alongside the mummies, archaeologists uncovered the remains of several workshops and materials used in the mummification process. These findings provide valuable insights into ancient embalming techniques, from preparing materials and preservation methods to the meticulous steps performed by skilled craftsmen. These artifacts also shed light on the lives of the workers behind the grand projects, individuals whose lives were closely tied to the pharaohs but who were rarely recorded in history. It's fascinating to think that thousands of years later, even though many artifacts have deteriorated, enough remains to tell previously untold stories about the laborers, the secrets of the court, and the power relationships that may have remained hidden until now. These two mysterious mummies not only reignite archaeologists' curiosity, but also raise a larger question for all of us. Are we glimpsing just the tip of the iceberg in ancient Egyptian history, or only a small piece of a far more complex story? With each new discovery, the Valley of the Kings opens a new chapter of history, bringing us closer to understanding the lives, deaths, and unanswered mysteries of this magnificent civilization. Will these two mummies reveal new secrets about the pharaohs, or will they tell the story of the working class, the silent but crucial individuals? Only time and further research will provide the answers. But one thing is certain, every excavation here is utterly captivating, and the more we uncover, the more mysterious and enchanting the Valley of the Kings becomes. The mysterious baby demon mummy in Japan, a tiny creature that sends shivers across the nation. Have you ever heard of a creature that makes you gasp, unbelievable, at first sight? In Japan, there is a strange story that even seasoned researchers find puzzling. The baby demon mummy, a tiny yet terrifying creature that has sent chills down the spines of many. Born in a land rich with legends, the baby demon measures only about 12 inches in length, but its appearance is enough to startle anyone. It has 4 limbs tipped with long claws, a mouth stretched wide from ear to ear, and tiny horns sprouting from its forehead, seemingly warning anyone who dares to come close. Of course, what piques curiosity is not just its horrifying appearance, but the creature's mysterious origin. No one knows where it came from, why it was mummified, or whether it truly represents a newborn demon as legend claims, or if it was merely a hoax. According to surviving records, the mummy was once preserved at Rakanji Temple in the Yabake region of Oita Prefecture. The temple housed an ancient book called the Kishu, which contained detailed accounts of the baby demon. Tragedy struck in 1943, however, when a fire destroyed the temple, annihilating both the mummy and the invaluable records. Today, only a rare photograph remains, displayed as the sole evidence of this bizarre creature's existence. Some rumors suggest that the baby demon was once found on Kagoshima Island, but beyond this sparse detail, all other information has been lost to the passage of time. This mystery has turned the baby demon into one of the most captivating enigmas for those fascinated by supernatural phenomena and unusual creatures. The surviving photograph has become an object of intrigue, prompting questions. Is it proof of a real creature, or merely a product of imagination and superstition? Yamaguchi Bintaro, a writer and businessman passionate about oddities, preserved this photograph along with numerous other strange artifacts in his office. He is not just a collector, but also a custodian of these unresolved mystical stories. Thanks to Yamaguchi's efforts, the baby demon lives on in the imagination and curiosity of people, becoming a story that is both haunting and compelling, inspiring researchers to continue searching for clues about this extraordinary creature. Over time, although much information has been lost, the baby demon's allure has not diminished. On the contrary, these gaps in knowledge fuel endless questions, constant curiosity, and sometimes a shiver when imagining this tiny yet grotesque being. Perhaps that is why the baby demon remains one of Japan's most intriguing and unnerving mysteries. A small creature with an impact far greater than its size could ever suggest. Mascall grave of 500 women and children reveals the terrifying ghosts of World War II. If you think history is just a collection of dry numbers, an archaeological discovery at Dulag 191, a notorious Nazi concentration camp, will make your spine shiver. In southwestern Russia, near the border with Ukraine, archaeologists have uncovered a mass grave containing the remains of over 500 women and children, all innocent victims of one of the bloodiest chapters of World War II. Just hearing that is chilling, but the reality is far more horrifying. Dulag 191 is not merely a location on a map. It witnessed the deaths of approximately 8,500 people. Most of them were women and children, powerless against the cruelty of war. When archaeologists began excavating the site, they found fragments of human bones, many showing signs of fractures and gunshot wounds, all undeniable evidence of violent deaths with no trace of mercy. The bones we found mostly belong to young people, said Mikhail Segodin, the lead archaeologist. The saddest part is that no personal belongings were discovered except for a damaged cigarette case. This shows they were completely abandoned, with no respect whatsoever. These hastily dug mass graves were often located right beneath where the living were held, and were sometimes covered with only a thin layer of soil. Over time, the bone fragments re-emerged like whispers from the past, telling the story of unimaginable brutality. Local historian Viktor Strelkin emphasized that these remains are the most vivid testimony to the pain of war. They remind us that every statistic in history represents real people, with lives, dreams, and fears of their own. This discovery is significant not only archaeologically, but also as a sobering reminder. War can wipe out an entire generation, and human cruelty sometimes surpasses imagination. Looking upon these remains, one can sense the loneliness, despair, and the urgent reminder of the value of peace. Nothing can erase their suffering, but remembering, studying, and recounting their story ensures that future generations never repeat such atrocities. Every bone fragment, every mass grave, is a reminder that human rights, respect, and compassion must never be forgotten if we are to avoid repeating the mistakes of history. Dulag 191, with its mass grave of 500 women and children, is not just an archaeological discovery. It is a terrifying yet necessary reminder that war steals not only land, but also lives, childhoods, and humanity itself. Through findings like these, we are able to confront the past, learn from it, and cherish every moment of peace that we have today. The 800-year-old mummy cemetery in northern Russia. At the Zeleny Yar site in northern Russia, a large-scale excavation has uncovered 34 ancient graves, including 11 mummies that have been almost perfectly preserved for over 800 years, along with countless artifacts that reveal untold stories about the lives of medieval people in this region. What makes this archaeological site so mysterious and captivating? Let's explore. The moment you step into the excavation area, anyone would be amazed by the richness and diversity of the artifacts found. Among the 11 mummies, some are particularly intriguing: a woman, a child, and 3 infants. Their entire bodies were coated in copper, a method that remains mysterious today, both in technique and meaning. Imagine it. The copper layer not only helped preserve the bodies, but also carried deep symbolic significance, forming a kind of armor against the ravages of time and the harsh environment. Surrounding these bodies were layers of reindeer, beaver, and bear fur, materials that ancient people used not only for warmth, but possibly for religious or funerary purposes. One mummy, a man with red hair, immediately drew attention due to the unusual hair color in the community. His body was also coated in copper, from chest to feet, creating an impenetrable metallic armor. Beside him lay an iron axe, unclear whether it was a weapon or a survival tool, along with a set of valuable furs and a copper key, perhaps symbolizing authority or an unlocked secret. All of these raised numerous questions about the daily life, social status, and funerary customs of the people who lived here. The 3 infant mummies were placed next to copper rings, which may have served as jewelry or protective talismans in the spiritual world. The presence of precious objects, such as a copper bowl originating from Persia, likely from the 10th or 11th century, a silver plate, a silver medallion, and other jewelry, further emphasizes the value and multicultural connections of this site. Could these items merely be decorative, or are they clues to understand trade relations and cultural exchanges between Eastern civilizations and medieval northern Russian communities? Archaeologist Natalia Fyodorova, who directly studied and led the excavation, shared, "Many mummies are scattered around the world, from permafrost regions to damp marshes, but this site is truly a unique archaeological discovery." Her words highlight the importance and rarity of this location, where every mummy and artifact preserves a piece of human history. Isn't it fascinating to consider that the belts, bracelets, and copper drums found here were not just daily objects, but may have carried ritual significance or symbolized the authority of ancient communities? Today, research institutes across Russia are rigorously analyzing the collected samples, working to unravel the mysteries of the medieval civilization that once thrived in this frozen land. Big questions remain. Why did they choose to coat their mummies in copper? Where did the precious items come from? What were their relationships with distant cultures like Persia? And what can we learn about their funerary customs and beliefs? All of these mysteries are waiting to be revealed. Imagine being part of this journey of discovery, uncovering stories hidden beneath the cold earth, where every artifact and every mummy is like an open history book waiting to tell its tale. The 600-year-old seated corpse that has not decomposed. On a barren mountain peak under the vast sky, where cold winds sweep across jagged rocks through the passage of centuries, there stands a small house hiding a timeless secret, a body seated in a meditative pose that has remained intact for over 600 years. What might capture your attention most is that the hair on the mummy's head is still fully preserved, something seemingly impossible for centuries-old remains anywhere else in the world. Have you ever wondered, how could a body be preserved so perfectly that modern scientists have yet to identify any chemical capable of doing the same? The story begins in the village of Guan, deep within the Spiti Valley, a forbidden land straddling the border between India and China. According to local villagers and monks, this body belongs to Sangha Tenzin, a renowned Tibetan monk. He meditated in the lotus position, hugging his knees and wrapping himself with ropes, seemingly attempting to preserve himself in endless stillness before passing away. The corpse was discovered not in a grand tomb, but in a natural cave, steeped in the sacred atmosphere of centuries of meditation. It was a devastating earthquake in the 1970s that revealed this hidden tomb. When the mountain split, the monk's mummy was exposed to the world for the first time, though it had lain in silence for centuries in the shadows of this forbidden land. For generations, only the villagers of Guan knew of its existence. Outsiders remained almost entirely unaware. It was not until recent years that scientists and adventurous climbers gained access to study and witness this extraordinary phenomenon. What is most remarkable is that even after over 600 years in the cave and more than 3 decades exposed to the elements, the body remains almost perfectly preserved. The skin is dry but not fully decomposed, the bones are firm, the hair is intact, and the teeth and nails are undamaged. Western scientists, astonished by this, quickly built a vacuum-sealed glass case to protect the mummy from environmental effects. They hope to preserve one of the world's most unique archaeological artifacts. Do you know the initial explanation scientists proposed for this miracle? They believed that before his death, Sangha Tenzin meditated in the lotus position without food or water, causing the body fat to be completely consumed, while other body parts shrank, shriveled, and naturally dried. Bacteria could not survive due to the absence of the moisture needed for decomposition. But does this fully explain why the hair remains intact and the skin retains its natural color after so many centuries? This mystery continues to baffle scientists and raise unanswered questions. According to Tibetan legend and belief, this is not merely a mummy. It represents the highest state of meditative attainment that a monk can achieve, a form of spiritual and physical immortality after years of ascetic practice. This corpse is not a symbol of death, but a testament to transcendence, surpassing all boundaries of life and death. Imagine standing before a living proof of the extraordinary power of human will and spiritual discipline, an unparalleled witness to the potential of the mind and body. The mysterious golden sphere at the bottom of Alaska's ocean. At a depth of more than 9,800 feet beneath the icy waters of Alaska's bay, where sunlight cannot reach and the pressure is enough to crush most ordinary exploration equipment, a shocking discovery left scientists exclaiming, "We still know so little about the planet we live on." In September 2023, during a survey using a remotely operated vehicle, ocean researchers accidentally came across an object of unusual shape and texture, resting on a rock in the ocean depths. It was a golden sphere, about 4 inches in diameter, as if placed there by some mysterious hand, and immediately it became the center of endless debate. What drew scientists' attention so intensely? First, this was not a rock, nor a fragment of artificial equipment or ocean debris. Preliminary on-site analysis suggested the sphere had a biological origin. But what kind of biological origin? Was it an egg, the remains of a marine creature, or an entirely new life form unknown to science? Various hypotheses were quickly proposed, but none were convincing enough to draw a conclusion. Some researchers speculated it might be an egg of an undiscovered deep-sea organism. Others suspected it could be a rare type of sponge found only in the abyss. More daring opinions suggested it could represent a completely new form of life, unlike anything previously recorded in marine biology. The mystery deepened when the golden sphere was brought to the surface. Exposed to decreased pressure and changing temperatures, it almost melted, losing its original shape and turning into a gelatinous mass, making structural analysis far more complicated. No longer an intact object, it became an amorphous blob. But that only fueled the curiosity of scientists and deep-sea explorers even further. Imagine this. What if this strange organism could hold the key to medical breakthroughs, new energy sources, or even future food supplies? It may sound far-fetched, but it is not without basis. According to Sam Candio, an expert from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, discoveries like this are clear proof that the deep sea remains an unlocked treasure trove. Unknown organisms may harbor biological compounds yet to be studied, potentially leading to new drugs, vaccines, or even regenerative technologies for humanity. That is why deep-sea exploration is not just a playground for scientists, it is an essential part of efforts to preserve and sustain life on Earth. And here's the striking part. All of these discoveries are only the tip of the iceberg. Experts are gradually collecting data on organisms, structures, and habitats from the deep-sea floor to create a comprehensive picture of this mysterious ecosystem. In the near future, we may have to revise entire biology textbooks just because of a single golden sphere that melted into a strange gelatinous substance. This is not merely a story of marine biology or a scientific finding. It is a reminder that even though humans have walked on the moon and are planning missions to Mars, right beneath our feet, in the vast oceans of Earth, there are still mysteries waiting to be solved. So, if you could ask the ocean a question, what would it be? Do you think that thousands of feet below the surface, there are creatures no one has ever seen, lost civilizations, or even answers to life's greatest questions? As you can see, these chilling archaeological discoveries are not only vivid evidence of humanity's mysterious past, but also a reminder that history always holds things we have yet to explain. Every artifact, every relic, tells a haunting yet meaningful story, urging us to keep learning and exploring. If you think you already understand the past, think again, because these mysteries will make you see history in an entirely new light. Thank you for taking the time to watch the entire video. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to catch our latest videos. For now, goodbye, and see you next time.